Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we explore convenient yet effective shortcuts that will help you get ahead and move forward faster by becoming a better leader. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert, and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbach.
The number one thing that contributes to customer loyalty is emotions. So move onward and upward faster by gaining significantly deeper insight and understanding of your customer journey and personas with emotional intelligence. With your empathy mapping workshop, you'll learn how to evoke and influence the right customer emotions that generate improved customer loyalty and reduce your cost to operate. Get over your emotional hump now by going to empathymapping.com to learn more. Okay, Fast Leader Legion, today I'm excited because I get the opportunity to talk to somebody who's going to teach me some new terminology, as well as some ways to find new energy. Brian Biro is the author of 11 books, including the bestseller Beyond Success. Brian was born and raised in the San Fernando Valley in Southern California, along with his older sister, Caitlin. His mother and father have been married for 65 years and live in Lake Tahoe. His dad was in the Los Angeles Police Department, and after retiring and moving to Tahoe, has carved wooden signs for 40 years. His mom was the receptionist in a pediatrician's office for 20 years and then became the curator of a little museum in Tahoe for another 20 years. Growing up, his parents taught him about work ethic, honesty, and energy. He was always involved in sports and swam competitively through school. In order to pay for his tuition to Stanford University, he began teaching and coaching swimming in the summertime. Brian absolutely loved teaching swimming and realized early on that he didn't really coach swimming. He coached people. That path led him to his greatest professional passion, which is helping others break through fears, obstacles, habits, and beliefs that keep them from their potential. Upon graduating from Stanford, Brian returned to Southern California to become a swimming coach. He coached full-time for 8 years and had the joy of building one of the largest swim teams in America. After coaching, Brian attended the UCLA Graduate School of Business. There he met his soon-to-be wife, Carol, during a summer internship in Seattle. Brian was hired by the company for whom he had interned and rapidly rose to vice president. He began teaching team building programs in his company and generating record results. More importantly, they broke through silos and became a terrific place to work. Despite enormous success, Brian said to Carol, "Honey, we're doing great. Let's quit. I want to teach and speak." Carol said, "Of course, let's do it." And he's been a professional speaker for 27 years, delivering more than 1,600 presentations worldwide, written 11 books, and loved every minute. Brian and Carol now live in beautiful Asheville, North Carolina. They have 2 grown daughters and 1 grandson. Brian Biro, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
I'm ready to rock and roll, Jim. That's great. You had to deal with Brian Biro's bio, and you did a masterful job.
Hey, man, I'm glad you said that because I don't think I could.
I can't do it 3 times, so just once is it.
I've given our Legion a little bit about you. Can you tell us what your current passion is so that we get to know you even better?
Absolutely. I love helping people break through. That's really been the force of what I've done in every career. But breaking through, getting people to start to look at the possibility instead of the limit, look beyond the obstacle. So it's really about helping people make great choices that enhance their health, enhance their careers, enhance their families, enhance the value you get in every precious moment.
Well, I hear you say that, but then I got a little bit confused when I look at your latest title, which is that there are no overachievers. Now, either that's brilliant marketing or something else. I mean, to me, I'm like, what do you mean there's no overachievers? I mean, I'm sitting here trying to help my kids, achieve and overachieve and exceed, but you're saying there aren't any of those types of folks. I don't get it.
Jim, that came from the actual sentence, "There are no overachievers," came from my mentor, my friend who wrote the foreword to my first book, who was the greatest college basketball coach of all time. And his name was John Wooden. Coach Wooden coached at UCLA. He won 10 national championships. He often said there are no overachievers. And what he was saying is, you have no idea what you've got inside of you. Rarely do we actually rise to our level or potential. So the purpose of that title is to kind of shake it up. I'm glad it shook you up a little bit to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I can do things I didn't know I could do. Maybe I could get in better physical health. Maybe I could learn that new skill. Maybe I could relate better to my teenager, which may be the biggest challenge of all. In other words, what he's saying is we do have more potential and there's more in us than we ever dreamed of. There are no overachievers. We're all underachievers. And with that viewpoint, we never feel like we've reached the end.
Well, that's a really interesting, positioning and different context that you put it into. When you added the other part, saying that we're all underachievers. To me, that resonates, and I get that. However, probably wasn't as good of an attractive book title. But, you also talk about woo. What the heck is woo?
First of all, it's fun to say, isn't it? Woo. WOO stands for window of opportunity. And I want to suggest that everyone listening to this show has the same most important woo right now, window of opportunity. It's every precious moment. In other words, you never know if the next person you'll meet today, I meet you today for the first time. I never know if we may become lifelong friends, as we didn't know when we met our lifelong friends. You never know if the next time you talk to your son, your daughter, your coworker, your friend, if something you say in the next conversation may be so on target for what that other person didn't see with their own eyes, but you saw it. And then when you said it, you seized the woo. And because of something you said to another person, their life sets off on a better trajectory. I bet you everyone listening to this show has had somebody in their life who seized a woo, believed in them in a moment when they weren't believing that much in themselves, and it changed their lives. So the question is not, is there a woo? There is. The question you got to ask yourself to shake it up and to break through is, how many of those puppies have we missed? How many windows of opportunity have we missed in the last month alone with the people we love the most? Why do we miss them? A lot of this book is about helping people seize those windows of opportunity instead of miss them.
You know, it's really interesting as you say that. And as you did, I started thinking about, for me, and, you know, oftentimes I say that I'm stirring the pot. You know, I always stir the pot because for me, I think I somewhat, you know, carry around a woo stick. Meaning that I see windows of opportunity for folks and, you know, and I'm like, hey, and I tap them with it. I'm like, this is, don't you see that this is a potential opportunity for you?
You know, it's a great way to look at it. You know, one of my favorite quotes came from, Think and Grow Rich, a classic book. It said, within every adversity is planted the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. I'll say it again. Within every adversity is planted the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. Now, everyone on this show, I bet you if you look back in your life and you think of the toughest things you went through, no fun in the process, could have been really tough. But if you made it to the other side and you look back now, I bet you say, you know, it was from those tough things that I grew the most. So in other words, you would not be who you are had you not seized that window of opportunity and made the way through. So I love the fact that you do that. One of the hottest terms in business world today in all of my speaking is to disrupt the status quo. That's other words, that's shaking that woo stick and touching people with it. It's saying that, and if you don't, you're going to fall behind. You have to shape the future or you're going to be behind.
Well, you know, and for me, I think you just helped me also draw some clarity into, you know, why I put so much effort into doing, you know, the Fast Leader Show. You know, we're sitting here with 100 and, you know, close to 150 episodes at this point. And, you know, I have several organizations that, you know, are PR companies that have clients that, you know, are pitching me their clients to be on the show. And it's, you know, it's gaining a lot of, you know, traction, and which is exciting and everything. But I'm always up here, you know, having to put things together, coordinate, and on that during my extra hours in the day. And there's none, by the way. But I'm like, why am I doing this? But I think you just kind of explained it to me, is that I enjoy and giving people the chance to see things within themselves and to obtain and achieve things within themselves that they otherwise wouldn't see. And that's where I get some fulfillment.
That's exactly the whole focus of why I want people to see you can do more than you thought you could. It's the basis of what I do in my seminars, to get people, actually have people do things that when they walk away at that day, go, I didn't know I could do that. What else could I do that I didn't know I could do? Maybe I could start that business. Maybe I could turn this corner. Maybe I could patent that idea. That's what you're doing with this podcast, by helping people to really explore different ideas, hear different voices. We should not be scared of differences. We should be excited about differences, because we only see what we see. When you invite people to hear other voices and see other concepts, that's when we can grow.
You're right. And you know, talking about doing some things that you otherwise wouldn't think you would be able to do or even possible of doing, is there's one of these little tricks that you like to do when you're public speaking that, you know, really, you know, is one of those things that does just that. Tell us what it is.
Yeah, you know, I'm called America's Breakthrough Coach because I've had more than 500,000 people actually break through. I have people in my seminars break through 1-inch thick boards karate style. It's not just for the fun of it, though it is the most fun thing you'll ever do in a seminar. It's a metaphor, and it's a powerful one. I have everyone write on their board something they want to break through. Of fear, obstacle, habit, or doubt. Could be fear of public speaking. Could be something to do with their physical health. Could be in a relationship. So it's the greatest individual breakthrough experience, because they get clear about this thing that's been holding me back. Procrastination about this thing I always wanted to do. On the other side of the board, they write down, when I've broken through that fear, that obstacle, when I've lost that weight, when I've written that book, when I've started that business, what am I going to do, feel, create, have in my life? Because I'm no longer held back by that fear. I've had people bring their families back together. I've had people conquer cancer. I've had people lose 125 pounds. I've had people do things they didn't know they could do because they got so clear. The team part is equally powerful because you'll never see people cheer like they do in this board breaking experience. I'm going to be doing one next month for 4,000 people. And I'm telling you, we're going to lift the city of Atlanta off the ground with the cheering. We want each other to break through. And when, say, Jim, you're in the circle of 10 people breaking your board, the other people are going, Jim, 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 cheering like crazy. During that time, all those other 9 people or 10 people, they're only focused on you. Some people have never been cheered for in their life. And when they're in that circle, all that unconditional support lifts them to a level that they've never experienced. For some people, that is the greatest breakthrough of all. So I love this experience because it's real. You don't know you can break through until you do it. And that's the way it is with life. We don't know we can lose the weight until we do it. We don't know if we can start the business till we do it. So I give them that real experience. Confucius said, when we hear, we forget. When we see, we remember. But when we do, we understand. And so I like to give them that real breakthrough experience.
Well, and for those who haven't had the opportunity, I'll make sure we link to it on the show notes page. You know, you've videotaped a couple of these sessions, and seeing people who don't initially break through the board, and when they finally break through the board, I mean, they almost get giddy.
Oh, it's amazing. And people go crazy. That's really the kind of the crescendo, because the last people to break the boards are those who didn't break it after 3 tries. And I often say to them, you're the lucky ones. And they look at me like, what? I said, because you get to figure out what you changed in you to break through, and then apply it in your life. And it's uncanny how often it's the same thing. I hesitate at the key moment. I focus on the obstacle instead of the breakthrough. And so it was the same person. It was the same board. You could have broken it the first time, but you changed something, do it in your life exactly the same way. And it's unbelievable how accurate it is.
I started thinking when you started saying that and talking about so many of the things that we're now finally learning about the way that our brains work, and how we, actually will take just very simple things like that and actually learn how to apply it in that other scenario. So in other words, we can transfer it. And so how many people come back to you and say, guess what?
Oh, yeah, I get that. It's one of the greatest things. It's one of the most fun things about social media is I get people, who broke their boards 20 years ago, writing me now and saying, I did it. I can't believe it. I started that business I wanted to start, and it's been going for 20 years. They come across the board. That's the other thing. It stays with you. And what you focus on is what you create. The great experience of that board breaking is to understand how powerful it is. If you focus on the board, you get the board. If you focus on the breakthrough, you're amazed at how you can fly right through it.
Now, you mentioned a moment ago about one of the quotes that you like from Napoleon Hill. I mean, this whole board breaking thing and that's very Napoleon Hillish, if that is a way to describe it.
Well, it really is. And one of the things that I love to do, Jim, is I've read a ton of biographies. And people who have accomplished great things in their lives have that's the basis of Think and Grow Rich, incidentally. That's what he did. He interviewed people who had great success. They have some very powerful, simple principles that are who they become. One is they have extraordinary energy. 2 is they're optimists. They're not unrealistic, but they always feel that we can get better. They always feel there's more in them, like there are no overachievers. And this can be people from widely different beliefs, but those commonalities of energy, of focusing on what you want more than what you don't want, and of absolutely positively coming from a place of we can grow, we can do better. Those principles are really Napoleon Hillish, but they're basically the greatness that's within us that allows us to move forward.
One of the things I also found interesting is that a lot of those folks have also overcome some significant adversity. So I guess you need to go out and create some adversities to get over. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
You're going to do it anyways. But, that's the truth. Michael Jordan always talked about how he missed more shots than game-winning shots than he made. And you learn from those things, and you just don't stay stuck in the past and say, oh, well, because I didn't do it yesterday, I'll never do it again. No. What can I learn from yesterday to do it different and better tomorrow?
Well, yeah, and he also talks about getting cut from the basketball team and going home, and definitely didn't let that keep him down. That's for sure. So when you start thinking about, oh gosh, I can only imagine. You talk about, reading a lot and a lot of the things and the speakers that you've met and, all of the things that you've been exposed to. There's probably several quotes that you like, but is there one that kind of stands out that you can share with us?
Yeah, I love the quote from John Wooden that said, "It's amazing what's accomplished when no one cares who gets the credit." We are too focused on a need for approval. And what he was saying is, you should get the joy from what you're doing. Really, Jim, that's why I love what I do speaking. It's not from the response. And I get a ton of really neat response because it's fun, it's emotional, it touches your family and your work. But I love the way I feel when I'm doing it. And I don't need any credit for it. I don't need any approval. I appreciate it. I'm thankful for all the kind things that people say, but it's not my purpose. It's not my driving force. My force is that I love what I'm doing. And in the process of doing that, I'm already fulfilled. So I love that one because credit is something we should give. Responsibility is something we should take. And too often that gets reversed.
I think that's a great point. And for me, as you were saying that, I started thinking too, another thing that's important to go with that, because here's where I've made some mistakes at sometimes is that when people give you that appreciation and give you that credit, is that you discount it, but you need to learn how to take it with grace.
Absolutely. And that's a chapter in the book is about learning to receive, because receiving is allowing people to feel the joy of giving. And if you don't receive well, you take away their joy. So receiving, you'll never really be a giver until you learn to receive and take it graciously and say, thank you, take it in, because that is allowing them to feel that joy that we all love, that we feel when we give.
That's most definitely. And I mean, also when you start thinking about all of this learning and all of these things is that, in order for us to get to these points and break the boards and stuff, it's, the overcoming humps. We talk about them all on the show. Is there a time where you've had to get over the hump, where you broke through the board and it made a difference for you?
Absolutely. When I graduated from Stanford, right before I graduated from college, I was just real down on myself because I was like a lot of people my age. I had a dad who came from a kind of a different time. And so he was not one who gave any praise. He was not one who gave a compliment. And so as a little kid, I just wanted my dad to love me and to be proud of me. But he couldn't say it. He could never say, I love you, son. He could never say, you're doing great. It just wasn't in him. It just came from a different world. But it turned into this drive where I had to be the best at whatever I did. And I was no fun to play with. If you were playing a game with me, you'd go, man, this guy's no fun. He's just like too intense. Because I was trying to be something that was out of my control. I was comparing myself to others. At that lowest point where I thought I'm no good because I'm never the best, I realized that I wanted to shift one word in my approach to life. Instead of going to be the best, my decision was I choose from this point forward to simply focus on being my best. The shift from the best to my best transformed my life because no longer did I evaluate what I was doing based upon what other people thought or comparing to others. I focused on what I put in more, my effort, my energy, my attitude, the things I actually controlled. I became fun to play sports with. I performed better because I wasn't working against something that was unreachable. When you're driven by the need for approval, you'll never have enough and you'll never feel complete. So that shift, that epiphany from trying to be the best to simply going after being my best was the big breakthrough for me.
So, gosh, I can only imagine, coming out of school and you were, teaching swimming at the time and all of that. I mean, how did you not, or how did you prevent translating or transposing, that type of, mindset and drive onto your students?
Well, you focus on each one individually because everyone has their different potential and in terms of their physical potential. I realized that I had many athletes. And one of my favorite stories, I'll have to tell it to you sometime because it's a long story, was about an athlete I coached for 8 years, and I coached her backwards. Her name was Allison. She always fell apart at the ends of her races. She had quick speed, but she'd die at the ends of her races. And I kept saying to her year after year, one of these days you're not going to die, Allison. All right. And, she kept dying because all she thought about was not dying. One day I said to her, focus on finishing your race this time like you just did your warm-up sprint. Because she did a great warm-up sprint. And she blew away my expectations. She broke through in a way that as I think about it, I'm getting chills just talking about it again. And I realized how often we coach backwards or we compare them to others. We don't have to do that. We don't have to say, why don't you act more like your sister? No, why don't you do this outside of your sister. Leave your sister out of it. All right. Instead, work on them individually, focus on their strengths and their potential. So that's really the concept. I wanted each one to rise as far as they could rise. And also to never overestimate, to never think I knew their limit, to let them know that maybe they could, because one like Allison showed me, you can do better than you even dreamed of. She blew away my absolute wildest dreams for her. And it was all in that moment of shifting from what we don't want to what we do want.
I think that's a great story. I mean, and for when you were talking about that, I started thinking about something that a good mentor of mine, Dr. Shay McConnon, talks about, is that it's called difference management.
Absolutely.
And that we have to understand the differences of folks in order to be able to manage the situation, the relationship, in a way that's unique and important to that, not, to a particular group or stereotype.
Every great coach, teacher, leader understands you don't coach everybody the same, because everybody's not the same. Some people need a pat on the back. Some people need a pointed pat called your toe in their tush. Some people need space. You need to let them go. And that to them says, you believe in me because you're not hovering over me. If you coach everybody the same, you're lazy and you're not going to be as effective. Look for people's opportunities, their strengths, coach everyone based upon their unique qualities and differences, and you help them get the most out of who they are.
Well, and you can't rely on your own devices in order to do that. For me, I have to, I create a dossier is what I talk about. And I have to keep referring back to it because oftentimes I forget, that particular person, I have to be different in that way in order to connect with them. So I will take notes and I'll put it in, my different, LinkedIn or something like that, and create separate, forms in order for me to keep track of it. Because otherwise I just go back to my norm or what I have habits in.
See, what it does for you too is whenever you seek to enrich another person's experience, you can't help but enrich your own. It makes you better because it means you have to be more alert. You have to pay attention. You have to learn from when you mess up. This didn't work right. And a great way to look at it is the meaning of my communication is the response I get. In other words, if I'm communicating something, even if I think I'm a good communicator and that other person doesn't get it, if you come from the place that says the meaning of my communication is the response I get, that says, I got to change me. I got to be a better coach, a better teacher. Bear Bryant, the great Alabama coach, once said, I'm just an old country plowhand. But if I've learned one thing, if you want to get a team's heart to beat as one, it's that when things go great, they did it. Things go pretty good, we did it. Things go bad, I did it. In other words, I'm going to take responsibility. And so by doing that, by really coaching those differences, looking for those ways that we need to treat people differently, what happens is it makes us be more alert, more aware, more creative, and a better leader.
That's for sure. And doing all that definitely requires a lot of energy. And so one of the things that stood out, in your book was that you talk about having a new kind of energy that allows you to go from 3 to 10. Well, what is that?
Well, the first thing, to everyone we touch, our energy is our example. People don't remember that much of what we say, but we remember their energy. We get their energy over the phone. We've never seen their face. So it's important to understand that the biggest sense of who you are comes from your energy. Energy is a choice. That's what I want people to learn from that. In other words, a lot of people think about their energy kind of the way they think about the weather. Hope the weather's good this weekend for the family picnic. That's the way we think about our energy. Hope I'll make it through this week. But energy is a choice. And so I like to put it on the 10-point scale because it's just really simple. And simple to me is actionable. So one on the 10-point energy scale, 1 is comatose. 10 is a child on Christmas morning. 10 is the way my people feel in my events when they break their board. So the pivotal question in life is, where are you living on that 10-point scale? Man, that's a great question. And then suppose you said, I'm living at a 7, which is pretty high in this world. How do we change our energy by choice? And I talk about it in the book, but to make it real quick, first, change the way you move. Our energy is created by the way that we move. You can instantly change your energy by sitting up, opening your eyes brighter, smiling, and immediately you'll feel a higher level on that 10-point scale. The most constant source of energy, though, is purpose. When you're filled with purpose, energy's no problem. When you're doing what you love to do, doesn't matter how much sleep you had, you're feeling great. So constantly remembering to focus, what's my purpose here? What's my most desired outcome? that'll immediately change your energy. The last thing is ask better questions. That can elevate your energy. Ask questions. The quality of the questions you ask yourself will determine the quality of your life. So instead of why can't I do this? How can I do this? How can I do this better? Start to create constructive, enabling, uplifting, empowering questions.
So, as you were talking, I started thinking a whole lot about building of resilience. And you also talk about, being easy to impress and hard to offend.
Yeah, I love that. That to me is one of the really great breakthrough principles in the new book, There Are No Overachievers, because most people are easy to offend. And when you're easy to offend, you immediately go into the defense mode. And in the defense mode, nothing ever gets done. When you're easy to impress, what that means is you're interested in people. That's why you do this show, Jim. You're interested in people. You want to learn from all kinds of people, have fun with them, but learn those little pearls that might be different than maybe you've thought about before, that allows you to grow a little bit. I tell the story about being hard to offend, difficult to offend, of Jack Nicklaus, the great golfer. When he came up, people don't forget this now, he was the bad guy because he was beating Arnold Palmer. And everybody loved Arnie. And Jack Nicklaus was heavier, and he had a butch haircut, and he had the audacity to beat the king, to beat Arnold Palmer. But he is a great example of being hard to offend. He was gracious in defeat. He was gracious in victory. He always had a kind word to say about everyone. Gradually, that changed the perception of Jack Nicklaus to today. He's revered because he was hard to offend. He stayed to the things he controlled, and he never took it personal. And that's really what it's about. And I love to ask this question whenever I start to feel a defense thing come up inside of me. Inside my own head, I'll ask, what else could this mean? And immediately it makes me think, well, maybe it's not about, maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe I didn't communicate very clearly. I need to do a better job of communicating. Maybe it has nothing whatsoever to do with this. They just found out some bad news in their family. When you come from being hard to offend, you open up the possibility to connect and communicate rather than to get defensive.
That's so true. Now, I know you have a lot of things going on. I think, your daughter's working with you.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That really helps me hook up with also, it kind of forces some activity with seeing my 10-month-old grandson, Augie. And I'm telling you, that's the greatest thing in the world. People always joke about grandparenting. You love it because you can play with them and then drop them off. That's not it. I'll tell you what it is, Jim, is that when you have your own children, you're trying to figure out your life. And so you're not present a lot of the time when you're there. You're thinking about the meeting you had to do, you have to do tomorrow. You're thinking about this and that. You're not present. You're not there. By the time you have grandchildren, you realize none of that stuff was nearly as important as these precious moments I have with you. And so when you're with them, you're really with them. That's why a grandparent, though it's harder to get down to the ground, they'll stay on the ground with that grandchild for an hour instead of because it's so precious and you're fully present. That's the most important thing we say to people in our lives is by being fully present, we say to them, you're important. So I'm loving it. My daughter is, bringing fresh ideas. She's much more tech savvy than I am. So she's forcing the old dad to grow a little bit. I love it.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And that perspective, that's something I really needed to hear. So when you start looking at all these things and the additional work that she's actually creating for you, I'm sure there's another book already in works. When you look at all of those things, what's one of your goals?
I think my greatest goal is I want to reach as many people as I can with the concept that there's one breakthrough. You break through from fear to love. That's it. Fear has a lot of names. It can be anger. It could be animosity. It could be hiding. Love has a lot of names. Joy, possibility, courage. And so when I help people break through, whether it be in my books or in my seminars, and I start to recognize that every time you choose the fear side, you feel it. You feel heavy. It feels like 1,000 pounds. And every time you choose the love side, you feel light. You feel your eyes open wide. You feel like, hey, I can. So my real goal in life is to help people start to recognize it's already in you. It's already in you to focus more on what you want than what you don't want. It's already in you to affect your own health by the decisions you make. It's already in you to get along with people who you maybe didn't get along with before, but you got to change you. If things are to change, I must change.
So stop underachieving, right?
That's it.
And the Fast Leader Legion wishes you the very best. Now, before we move on, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. An Even Better Place to Work is an easy-to-use solution that gives you a continuous diagnostic on employee engagement along with integrated activities that will improve employee engagement and leadership skills in everyone. Using this award-winning solution is guaranteed to create motivated, productive, and loyal employees who have great work relationships with their colleagues and your customers. To learn more about An Even Better Place to Work, visit beyondmorale.com/better. All right, here we go, Fast Leader Legion. It's time for the Hump Day Hoedown. Okay, Brian, the Hump Day Hoedown is a part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Brian, Biro, are you ready to hoe down?
I'm ready to hold down. Let's do it.
What do you think is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
I think it's that we are getting caught in comfort zones. Comfort zones almost immediately become confinement zones. So it's disrupt your status quo. Challenge yourself to try to learn something new every day.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
It's really from Coach John Wooden, and that is, it's amazing what's accomplished when no one cares who gets the credit. Give the credit, take responsibility.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
Well, I think number one is I love people and I believe in people. And I think when you come from that place, you bring it out. And secondly is to understand that my energy is my choice. And so every day I would seek to live with as much energy as I can. Use up that gas from that day so that it's empty, and you fill up the tank during the night and start again.
What do you feel is one of your best tools that helps you lead in business or life?
Being fully present. Telling people through your actions that when you're with them, you're 100% with them, mind, body, and spirit.
What would be one book that you'd recommend to our listeners that could be from any genre? Of course, we're going to put a link to There Are No Achievers on your show notes page as well.
I would choose two books. One is called Unbroken, and it's a book by Laura Hildenbrand. She wrote Seabiscuit as well. It's a story of an incredible story. People read that book, they will never complain in their life again. It's about a guy named Louis Zamperini. The second one is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's a story that ultimately gets to the power of purpose.
Okay, Fast Leader listeners, you can find links to that and other bonus information from today's show by going to fastleader.net/Brian Biro. Okay, Brian, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25, and you've been given the opportunity to take the knowledge and skills that you have now back with you. But you can't take everything back. You can only choose one. So what skill or piece of knowledge would you take back with you, and why?
I would ask more than tell. Leaders think they're supposed to have the answers, but when you give the answers, you stop people from discovering their own learning. So I would ask more than tell. It's no coincidence we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We need to have that proportion. Great leaders want to create more leaders. You only do that by getting people to think. The way you get people to think is to ask more than tell.
Brian, it was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with the Fast Leader Legion how they can connect with you?
I sure will. Thanks so much. Just my website is brianbiro.com, BrianBiro.com. It's got all information on my speaking, my books. Love to hear from you. And that has all the hooks up to the social media as well. So thanks a million for having me, Jim. It's been a blast.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.